Here's my third and final Scraplift challenge example for you as part of Confessions of a Paper Addict National Scrapbooking Day events and challenges. So I'm going to scraplift a layout here created by Karen Jarmen, and I really hope, Karen, you're enjoying your new silhouette. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful page that you created with the team at Confessions of a Paper Addict cut files. So I've mixed together here some texture paste and a little bit of glitter gel, and I am just squishing this through a stencil from close to my heart, and these came in a sheet of a whole lot, and I just cut them down so that each of the different designs would have its own section, and I'm just squishing this stuff through quite randomly. It doesn't need to be a perfect finish. So just putting that in, and with having the glitter gel in there just adds that nice little extra bit of sparkle when you look at the layout in person. So putting that through, it's a good idea after using this stuff to wash off your stencils and tools, as well as to wipe down the surface quite early on, otherwise it's a bit stickier and a bit harder to clean up. So I've let that dry a little bit, and I'm going to use some of my acrylic gloss sprays and just sort of splatter these on rather than spraying them around. These sprays have a really nice sort of shiny finish when they dry up, and so I'm just using a couple of the different colours. So Karen had a very soft, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous page, and I'm trying to emulate that in some ways. And again, as I've done with my other scrap lifted videos that I've shared today, I am sort of taking her design idea and sort of pulling that into my own page using some different collections and a different kind of sentiment to the page. So I am sort of going to do some smooshing with these shimmer brushes. Now, these are pretty cool because they have that little bit of shimmer and shine and a bit of glitter in them. You saw before that I opened one and it spilt a little bit because I twisted it open rather than pulled the top off, which was a mistake on my part, but I managed to make that work on the page. So I've just used some Distress Oxide here and have spritzed it with water just to pull that across. And while this looks quite dark and quite bold at the moment, when I put in the rest of the layers, similar to what Karen had done in her layout, you'll see that they just sort of add to a softer edge than otherwise. So just splattering the Sapphire Shimmer brush there as well, wiping off my surface. Now you can see this beautiful layout to the left there. Thank you for sharing it, Karen, and I hope you don't mind that I have scrap lifted it. It was a beauty to see your page, and I've really enjoyed putting my page based on your ideas together. So I've got this photo of my daughter that I took the other night, and when she saw it just before that I'd scrapbooked, she said, "You really scrapbooked that photo." But I just liked the softness and the comfort, and I really enjoyed that she has still chosen to live at home with us. So these are the Flower and Leaves Confessions of a Paper Addict cut file, and I am using some Distress Oxides, and I think this was the Tattered Rose one that I'm just sort of putting onto the White Daisy cardstock to colour it. So when I cut them, I wasn't quite sure what colour I wanted them to be. But when I sort of looked at the paper collection and the tones, and I felt they needed to be quite softly coloured. So I do go through and I am colouring each of these up with the Distress Oxide. So the foam brush, I'm just sort of pushing out from the centre. With some of these beautifully detailed cut files and things, you'd have to be very careful not to tear some of the pieces. So it's a good softly approach, which is why I keep dipping back into the Distress Oxide pad there, because I don't want to rip them. And I do curl some of them up as I go, but luckily none of them rip or tear, which means they're all intact and I didn't have to do any special cover-up work in that in the process of tucking them in behind the patterned papers. So the patterned papers that I do use in this are the You Are Enough collection, which is a close to my heart National Scrapbooking Month collection, and it is filled with beautiful sort of washed, splattered colours with a really nice gold foil accent. So you can see that I keep the wee foam bits velcroed to the back of my Distress Oxides. So now I'm using, I think it's pickled something, just in some of the parts of the flowers, sort of on the ends, just to give it a little bit more of a tonal interest around these. And again, just softly, centre of the flower and some of the edges of the leaves and things like that, rather than over the whole thing. And the final flower there. It was quite fun doing this, really. It's almost quite therapeutic, just sort of playing around with different products and things just to colour up some of these cut files. So here they are, all sort of here ready to go. And so now I'm going to attach the papers, but I'm only going to sort of do part of it at a time. Now I had to line these up before I did any pressing down so that they were straight at the top and the bottom, but that I could make sure I was going to see all of the colours in this. So here, just attaching down this other piece of paper, which has already got some of those nice splatters and things on it, so it sort of echoes what you can see on the other side there. So I'm going to be attaching these Distress Oxided cut files in the different layers, and this I think was what drew me the most to Karen's page, was the use of the floral cut files that she had used and how she tucked them in behind the papers, and they were just peeking out, and it added some mystery and a romanticism or something to the page that was beautiful. So I'm just attaching down parts of the cut file there so that it will hold onto the page, but I kept it in place while I did that, so that I wasn't sort of losing that designy element that I'd put in there to suit. So holding it down a little bit till it sticks, and sort of putting that final one in up here. And I do take a while to decide where I want it and how I want it positioned. And I decide that I'm happy with that overlaying down on some of these bottom parts. So again, just a bit of pressure there to hold it in place. I am going to be covering some of these up with some other embellishments and stickers and the photo, of course. So thinking about where the photo is going to sit, I then position the other cut file, and I'm going to stick that down in a similar way to the other pieces there. So just sort of dotting this in parts, because it doesn't need to be completely flat on the page. It's sort of got that, I don't know, there's just a really a beauty to how Karen had done this page. So I'm going to mat this photograph on some White Daisy cardstock. So I've just stuck that down, and I'm going to cut that through. And looking at that there, happy with how that is. I do decide to back the photograph with another, with some of the cardstock that's part of this collection. It has wee rose gold bits in it as well. But it takes a little bit of thinking and working through what extra embellishments I'm going to want to put on here and how that's going to all come together, as well as in my mess finding where I've put all of the different bits and pieces. So here is this bluebell cardstock with some rose gold sort of squidges or splatters or something on them that I've decided to put in as my photo mat. And I've also now just pulled out the stickers that go with the You Are Enough collection to add further embellishments to this page. So I'm using the foam tape here to lift up the photo, because I am going to want to tuck some extra embellishments and bits and pieces in sort of in behind and below the photo, a little bit like what Karen had done. I really loved the way she had the florals and where she'd positioned all of those. And so I wanted to use some of that thought or some of that idea into this page. So I've got this gorgeous rose gold sort of love hexagon here, and I am putting the word shine up the top left. So that's where the title sort of came from. And there's another bit I add later on that I cut out from one of the Picture My Life cards that says gorgeous. So that's where it's shine, gorgeous, love. And I have found some of sort of these other flowers from the sticker sheet, and I've tucked both of those in behind there at the moment. And just pulling out some of the little diamonds. So these are white with some rose gold sort of geometric lines through them. And I found another sticker with sort of that purpley pink heart geometric design that sort of tied in nicely with the heart that I put to the left of the layout there. So I'm quite happy with how this is looking so far, but it does feel like it needs something a little bit more, and I wonder about some extra splatters and things. So I'm just going to cover up the photo using the same stuff as before, and I'm just using again the gloss spray just for a bit of extra splatter around the outside edges to connect with what's happening on the other side of that White Daisy cardstock. So there are some really cute holographic butterflies in this You Are Enough collection. So I'm looking for those, and I am also looking for the Picture My Life cards. So I got myself in a bit of a mess putting this together. However, I do end up finding the pieces that I need. So I'm going through these Picture My Life cards, and I have found this one that I'm going to fussy cut around the butterfly because it pulls out that word gorgeous, and just cutting around the butterfly, and I'm going to attach that in, tucking in behind the photo so that you can read that word gorgeous there as well. And so here are these cute little holographic butterflies. They were tucked into the pack and they were quite tricky to find. So they're sort of in two different colours. One's sort of a more bluey purple and the other is more of a yellow orange. And I do use bits of both of these colours. The sort of yellowy orange ones tie in nicely with the, I think the tattered rose colour that I used on the floral cut files. And the bluey coloured ones fit nicely with all of the other colours on this page. So finding places to put them that suit and that connect across the page. So now I do need to add a little bit of journaling, and I decide to pop this over on the left of the photograph, just between sort of some of the elements that I've put down. So there's the cut files there, and then there's the butterfly and heart, and I just pop in there that I love the young woman that you've become, Alicia, and we're happy to have you at home too. And that was a couple of nights ago, so it was earlier in April. So thank you, Karen, for sharing your layout that we can see sort of in here as I show you some of the closer up details of what I have put together using inspiration as I have scrap lifted your layout. And I really do hope that you're continuing to enjoy the cut files that you've purchased from Confessions of a Paper Addict, as well as your birthday gift of a silhouette. So that is the final layout I have scrap lifted and I'm sharing as part of the Confessions of a Paper Addict Scrap Lift Challenge. Thanks for playing.